Cotton, here's what real football songs are like. He's from Arkansas. They don't play it down there. Good morning, Senator Cotton. You know it's game week.
Yeah, I'm well aware of that, Hugh, and suspected you'd inflict that song on all of us again.
Senator Cotton, good morning to you. The news this morning is that President-elect Biden will nominate Lloyd Austin to be Secretary of Defense. Now, Senator Blackburn did not want to engage in that conversation because she said the Electoral College hasn't met yet. Would you engage with me on it, on whether or not Lloyd Austin will be a good nominee on the Senate Armed Services Committee?
Well, Hugh, first let me say that I respect and admire Lord Austin's service to our nation over 40 years in uniform, and I suspect that he might get quickly confirmed to many positions in a Democratic or Republican cabinet, for that matter. However, there are serious misgivings in the Senate about having another recently retired general become the Secretary of Defense. You'll recall that federal law prohibits any general who's been retired for fewer than 7 years to receive a waiver from the Congress to become the Secretary of Defense. Before Jim Mattis in 2017, it had only happened once before for George Marshall in the 1950s. There were several senators who voted against that. Many more senators have since expressed their regret for granting that waiver, given the state of civil-military relations inside the Pentagon and up to the White House. And one I would just highlight to you is Jack Reed. He is the senior Democrat on the Armed Services Committee. And when he voted for that waiver in 2017, he expressed reservation about doing so. He said it should be a once-in-a-generation moment, and that he would not in the future support another waiver for a recently retired general. So if they've already lost the senior Democrat on the Armed Services Committee, you got to think that they're at risk of losing a lot of other senators. And I can tell you this is not really an ideological or even a political point. It has nothing to do with General Austin's own views or records. It is from liberal Democrats to conservative Republicans in the Senate who share these concerns about civil-military relations inside the Pentagon.
Do you share those concerns, Senator Cotton?
Yes, I do, Hugh. To get down into the weeds a little bit about the Pentagon, there's four big organizations, four big families, four big types of units within the Pentagon. You have the services, Army, Navy, Air Force, so forth. You have the Joint Staff, where the services contribute senior officers and non-commissioned officers to the Joint Staff. You have the Office of the Secretary of Defense, which is primarily all the civilian offices. And then you have the combatant commands, both Geographic Command, like Central Command, which Lloyd Austin commanded, or Pacific Command, and then the functional commands, like Strategic Command or Special Operations Commands. I think what we saw under Jim Mattis was that the Secretary of Defense operated like a super combatant commander. He surrounded himself primarily with the people who had served him inside of Central Command, and I worry that another recently retired general who himself was a combatant commander might contribute to some of the same problems that we saw in the Pentagon in the early Trump years.
Now, Senator Cotton, I'm reminded of the vacancy after Justice Scalia died. The decision of the leader in the conference not to fill that was not based on Merrick Garland. It was based on the principle at the time that no opposing party had ever successfully nominated a justice during an election year when the Senate was not in the control of the same party. Would you prefer to see the vote on the waiver occur before the hearings on General Austin so that it is not specific to him? If in fact, I don't want people to in any way think that people like you are questioning his character or competence, but if there is going to be an issue about the waiver, shouldn't that vote come first?
Hugh, I think that's what we did in 2017. I know that we voted for the waiver on the Senate floor before we voted for confirmation. And a handful of Democrats voted against the waiver on principle, but then they voted for Jim Mattis. I could see some senators doing that as well. But obviously the waiver has to be granted, and I believe that's subject to the 60-vote threshold as well, as you've got to change a federal law.
That's right.
Your point is correct. What we're talking about here is not a reflection about Lloyd Austin or his service or his record or what his agenda might be as the Secretary of Defense. It is about the longstanding principle that we have civilian control of the military, and federal law has reflected that fact for 70 years, saying that we recently retired generals should not be the Secretary of Defense. We granted one waiver in 2017. Many senators and many people inside the Pentagon believe that was a mistake at the time. We ought not to repeat it. And Jack Reed said he wouldn't repeat it. under any circumstances in the future.
So, Senator Cotton, we got less than a minute. I know you are opposed to Neera Tanden to be the OMB director. I know Javier Becerra has got significant opposition for his attitude towards pro-life groups and other things. Are there other nominees? And now we have the Austin issue on the waiver. That's 3 controversies. Isn't that a lot of controversies for the vice president already, or the president-elect?
Don't forget Alejandro Mayorkas at DHS, who Obama's own inspector general found was responsible for selling citizenship to Chinese nationals on behalf of Democratic donors, Hugh.
So that's 4. It's going to be an interesting January. Senator Tom Cotton, thank you for joining me. Thank you, America. Kurt Schlichter is in for me tomorrow. I'll talk to you on Thursday on the next Hugh Hewitt Show.